The drama in Parliament today has really exposed the broad-based government, and it is now very clear that politicians will always think of themselves first. In fact, today the bond that has been uniting William Ruto and Raila Amollo Odinga has been weakened, and we saw very many leaders trying to give their views to support their positions. But if there is one person who lectured Speaker Moses Wetangula, and I think fixed some sense in him, is the senior counsel Otiende Amollo, who reminded Speaker Wetangula that the court decisions must be respected unless he wants to act with impunity.
Matter did not go to court in vain. The contestation, Mr. Speaker, was your considered ruling of 6th of October. Once that ruling is quashed, you cannot then, Mr. Speaker, with due respect, come and say that no decision has been made. The consequences are two. One, the leader of minority becomes the leader of majority by operation of law, even if you do nothing else. But in this case, we have gone further, and under Standing Order 19A, Standing Order 3, it
I'll add you 1 minute. 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, under 19A is very clear. The majority party whip shall communicate the name of the member elected under paragraph 1 to the Speaker in writing, and that was already done by the Honorable Millie Mabona. That settles that case. Mr. Speaker, the only way we can start debating whether this decision quashes and changes the position of majority and minority is if we want to practice impunity. Mr. Speaker, and I agree with your observations, it is not in this forum to question the reasoning in the judgment. That must be questioned elsewhere. The only issue is it the finding of the court? And it is. And if we are to be a country that practices the rule of law, let it be appealed. But until then, let it be implemented. Let the Honorable Junaid Mohammed be the majority leader. And it does not matter whether you are in government or not, because we are not debating who's in government and who's not. We are not debating the reasoning. Mr. Speaker, we are not even debating your election because we all participated. Some of us who are not in the other party still voted for you. So
these are the times when every lawyer will tell you that the law is very clear. During such moments, even lawyers take political sides. You will never see a lawyer who is neutral. They are always being led by the parties that they are affiliated to, or by their ethnic and tribal affiliation. Now, I realized that power is sweet because as Otiende Amollo was giving what he feels are legal facts, Kimani Ichungwa, who is now, whether it's the majority leader, I don't know, also brought another angle of the court ruling, because he was saying that in contrary to what Otiende Amollo is giving us, that the court ruling only meant that in the absence of any appeal, then the majority and minority, the former majority and minority leaders will swap their roles. But Kimani is saying that it takes people to what we call status quo ante. That is what the speaker was corrected in, that it is status quo ante, that we go back to where we were before Speaker Wetangula gave out the ruling.
Honorable Speaker, we also have a very good constitution, Honorable Speaker. And as much as I respect the decision of the court, I completely disagree with the court in many aspects, and some of which have been touched on. I do not want to dwell on to them, Honorable Speaker. But the question that we need to ask you, Honorable Speaker, and ask ourselves, what is it out of the 34 prayers? Honorable Speaker, there is a lot of loud consultations behind me.
Order, members.
I'll say, Honorable Speaker, the gentleman who went to court with a total of 34 prayers before the court. Amongst those prayers was a declaration by the court that the Azimio coalition be declared as a majority party, and the leader of the Azimio coalition in Parliament be declared as the majority leader in the House. the court declined to give that declaration or that ruling. The only ruling out of the 34, Honorable Speaker, that was given by the court was to annul your ruling of October 2022. And the import of that annulment, Honorable Speaker, when they said that they found it to be unconstitutional, null and void, the import of that is we go back to the status quo as at 9th of August 2022.
It's called status quo ante.
Status quo ante, Honorable Speaker.
But this ruling is really going to expose Speaker Moses Wetangula. Remember, Moses Wetangula has been accused before of being very partisan in most of his rulings. That is being led by his allegiance to William Samoei Ruto instead of being a neutral arbiter, instead of being a neutral referee. He is one who takes sides in a match. And the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, is being reminded to borrow a leaf from his brother, Kenneth Otiende, who exercised neutrality whenever there was a conflict in the handshake government, the coalition government between Raila Amollo Odinga and the late President Mwai Kibaki. But ladies and gentlemen, what exactly is at stake as we look forward for the ruling that will be given by Moses Wetangula? That is exactly what I want us to look at. Kindly subscribe to our channel if you're watching us for the first time. Click the notification bell. Don't forget to like and share our videos. Thank you very much for your continued support. Ladies and gentlemen, Moses Wetangula must understand that he's setting a very delicate precedent so that this could be used as a case ruling whenever the subsequent parliamentary sittings will find themselves in such a situation. That is why you heard Moses Wetangula was referring to situations when the former speakers, like the former speaker Justin Muturi, found himself in such a situation when his character was in question. So before he makes such a ruling, he must understand that he's leaving an indelible historic ruling that could be used 50 years after he's gone. And he should look at that. The problem is, I don't think whether Moses Wetangula is going to be neutral in this. Moses Wetangula was placed there specifically to bully parliamentarians, to ensure that he championed Ruto's interest. But he must understand that his ruling should be one that will convince both sides. Number two, what is at stake is Moses Wetangula's credibility. He has been accused of a man who is only playing and dancing to Ruto's tune and melody. This is the moment that Moses Wetangula must rise up above petty politics to become a neutral arbiter, because that position is a sacred, special position that must look at both sides and decide to make a ruling that will go beyond his allegiance. He is a man who should not swear allegiance to anyone. But the way he has conducted himself before really indicates that he can never be neutral. So it is at stake that he must show that he's neutral. He must disapprove those who feel that he's got an allegiance to the president. Number three, it is also at stake that court rulings must be respected. We have a culture in the country where people don't respect court orders, led by the president himself. He had once declared that he was not going to obey any court orders that were going against his wishes when the Law Society of Kenya went to court to try and challenge the housing levy, GMO, the police that were to go to Haiti, the Shah, and the president declared that there were some people who were sabotaging his development agenda. And with that, he declared that he was not going to respect any court ruling. And that seems to be the cause that Moses Wetangula is following. And this time round, Moses was being reminded that even the Azimio, who is now in agreement with the court ruling, went to court, the Supreme Court, and Madam Martha Koome overruled them. Even though they disagreed with the court ruling, they had to respect. Kimani Ichungwa is saying there that he does not agree with the court ruling. What do you do if you disagree with the court ruling? That is what we must look at. The only court that is the final is the apex court, the Supreme Court, beyond which, even if you are dissatisfied, you can go nowhere. You have to swallow your pride and agree with it. But you can still appeal like the judgments of the High Court. If you disagree with it, you can go and appeal. But Moses Wetangula, in my opinion, cannot now come back and overlook the ruling and say that it falls under his purview to determine who the majority or the minority leader is. So those are at stake, and Kenyans are watching. But even as we wait, we can almost predict. It is predictable exactly how Moses Wetangula is going to rule. But Otiende Amollo lectured Moses Wetangula, and he reminded him that unless you want to act with impunity, you have to respect court orders. You want to wait and see whether Wetangula is going to respect the court, because in my opinion, you either implement what the court said or you appeal. In the absence of that, it is only tantamount to impunity.